going to see some smaller firms that are technologically forward being able to rapidly do 10, 100 times more material and cases.
Every single document in the case, every single document that your firm's ever looked at, every single time you do a query. And this will allow us a massive scope of intelligence for every single answer, sort of joint venture between humans and LLMs. Because LLMs, they're great at understanding large amounts of textual information, but humans might have a nuance that LLMs just don't have.
Everyone, I'm Ryan from vals.ai, and today I'm really excited to be joined by Thomas and Joe from VecFlow. VecFlow have built Oliver, which is an agentic-based legal co-pilot. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having us, Ryan. So my name's Thomas. I'm co-founder and CPO of VecFlow. I previously worked before founding VecFlow with Joe and Ritvick. I previously worked at a law firm, at a very small litigation firm for a few summers. And then I've also done some ML research at Columbia.
Yeah. I'm Joe. I'm the co-founder and CTO of VecFlow. Prior to this, I was doing professional services at Blackstone. It's great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Let's get started. Can you tell me a little bit about what motivated you to participate in a study like VLAIR?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that the law firms that we spoke to, right, when we were founding VecFlow, we knew that they had trouble evaluating products they were going to buy, right? They're lawyers. They work with lawyers every day, right? But the issue is that the products that they have been sold, right, oftentimes underperform among their studies internally, right? And so it's constantly a challenge on the law firm perspective when buying products. You need to know that the product is going to be used by lawyers, not be shelfware, right? And part of having third-party evaluations like VLAIR allows lawyers to really trust the product and have their clients trust the product as well. It's a lot about trust. I also think as a startup, right, we benefit from getting publicity, and we benefit from being able to compare ourselves with the big legacy legal players in this field.
Why is it so challenging for law firms to do their own benchmarking and evaluation in-house?
I think it's difficult for law firms, particularly because there's a lot of products out there. There's a lot of different surface area that you can test on. And frankly, it's difficult to get a hold of a lot of these products before you buy. And it's also difficult, I think, to judge in a sort of objective way what an output looks like relative to another output. That's definitely something that we've had a lot of law firms say they struggle with. And I think that that's where some, like a vals type study, fits in extremely well, because presently there's really no open source benchmark for law. And it's hard to know, when you buy a product, is this product going to stack up to this other product I have in another field? Should I really buy this, or should I consider a different option?
One thing that we have seen is that a lot of lawyers and law firms in practice are already using tools like ChatGPT on the side, or they see Copilot integrated into their Office suite. And so I'm curious to the take on why legal-specific tools in generative AI may offer more value than something that others are already aware of or using in practice.
I mean, I think we see a lot of these generalist tools as being quite helpful. They're helpful in our everyday lives as well. But I think we identify maybe, 6 to 10 areas or 6 to 10 times a day where a lawyer will want to ask a question of ChatGPT. Our goal is to get that way up. And the way that we do it is with push button workflows. Essentially, we want a large document review to be handled by Oliver in a way that it just couldn't by ChatGPT. We want workflows that a lawyer does, every single day for an hour to be automated down to 5 minutes. And we want to build sort of a responsive platform that takes on much more of a lawyer's work than ChatGPT could. And I think our technology helps a lot with that as well.
Yeah. And basically how it's done is every time a query comes in, right, our system is agentic. It's able to use tools. It uses over 100 LLM calls per query, right? And this allows us to both interact with the systems the lawyer does, but also allows us to respond in a more kind of intelligent manner with all the context that a lawyer has in mind.
There's been a lot of talk on agents as a general concept, and so this seems like a very practical application of it. Why are you, or in what ways do the agentic part of the application benefit the user?
Our initial system was non-agentic, right? And we learned that the queries and types of tasks that a lawyer wanted to do required this. So for instance, if a lawyer is drafting a share purchase agreement, right? That drafting process, getting to that first draft, requires both search through precedent databases, search through sometimes SEC Edgar, and ability to edit Word documents very precisely, right? So our system is able to do all three of those types of things using a large language model as the interface of like communication between each of those tools.
I also remember there was a kind of piece that was written, you guys had with Meta about using the Llama models. So to tell me a little bit about your take on open source and why you're making that bet.
We're big fans of open source. We think it produces higher quality code generally. And we think that open source models offer a great opportunity to get high levels of intelligence in a democratized way and at a lower cost basis. They're also very secure because they can be deployed directly into a law firm's stack or into their servers, which is something we've seen a lot of requests for. Law firms obviously are extremely privacy sensitive. The more that we can retain on their servers, that's better for them.
So one of the most security sensitive users of generative AI. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask in our conversation about open source if you had a take on DeepSeek.
I definitely think DeepSeek has helped us as a platform because it allows us to do more computation at a lower cost, right? And I think that definitely open source models do provide this. I think that DeepSeek is, as people have pointed out, is not extremely surprising. We expected that models were going to scale up in this way, and I think it's indicative of how 2025 will play out with more models that are reasoning models and more models that are low cost that you can run very easily.
Let's double click into that a little bit more. We talked about how foundation models will exhibit more of the thinking ability or thinking reasoning ability that we saw with DeepSeek at O3. Are there other ways you think generative AI in legal tech will change?
I'll give sort of specific answers and then explain, I guess, why they're relevant to legal tech. I think the first one is the sort of rapid decrease of pricing in the consumption model of LLMs. This is really important, I think, because it allows us to process more documents per query, essentially. We hope in 2025 we can get to a point where we're processing every single document in the case, every single document that your firm's ever looked at, every single time you do a query, right? And this will allow us a massive scope of intelligence for every single answer. The second one, I think, is we're seeing a lot of increase in test time compute. And as you see these sort of chain of thought models, the next logical step is models that can do a lot without human intervention. We're seeing this with OpenAI's deep research, which people claim can write PhD level essays in minutes, right? And I think we're going to see something similar with law firms. Where these models can go into your iManage, go into your own databases, and sort of craft incredibly written research from almost nothing.
I completely agree. I think there'll be some continued technological jumps that we make in generative AI, particularly in legal tech. Are there ways you think that will affect the business of law or some of these non-technical components to how the technology is used in practice?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've already seen with some of our initial customers that they are able to do more cases with less amount of time initially. And it's evidence that they can do this even at higher quality. For instance, we just got an email back from one of our clients that thought our system had hallucinated a case. It turns out in a 6,000-page document, there was one page that was completely handwritten. It was in cursive. And even I couldn't read it, right? But our system was able to identify not just what it said, but was able to search through it and figure out that their client actually did something they weren't supposed to, basically, right? And so I think you already see the evolution of law using generative AI to better serve their own clients, right? And I think that what this allows our clients to do is to rapidly go through many more clients than they would normally be able to do. And so you're going to see some smaller firms that are technologically forward being able to rapidly do 10, 100 times more material and cases than they used to be able to do, right? And so I think that you're going to see increasing competition in law, and hopefully you're going to see one of the big four law firms appear in the US, much as this has already happened in the UK.
So Thomas, you mentioned hallucinations, which is a really scary word for a lot of lawyers, people trying to use generative AI in practice. How do you try to overcome or prevent for hallucinations in all of our product?
Yeah, absolutely. Hallucination is a very scary word, and rightfully so. We're scared of it too, and we try to put in as many safeguards and fail-safes at every single stage of our product as we possibly can. I mean, that includes trying to ground every answer in as much textual information as we can, refusing to answer questions that we don't have enough data for, looping in humans to answer follow-up questions. All of this is extremely important to the way that we respond to hallucinations. But importantly, I think we are also trying to mitigate human error. And the best way to do this is a sort of joint venture between humans and LLMs. Because LLMs, they're great at understanding large amounts of textual information, but humans might have a nuance that LLMs just don't have, right? And when we have them, together, this is when we can have the lowest rate of hallucination, so to speak, right? And that's how we think about mitigating hallucinations, not just on the LLM side, but making sure that the human has the tools that they need to produce the best work product.
Thomas, you worked at a law firm for a little bit. Was there a certain part of your job that you really wish you could delegate to Oliver as he built it today, or something you would have loved to have while you were working there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, this was a small litigation firm in Alaska, actually. And we had binders of documents on the shelf. They were split into 1,000 pages binders, right? And you had to search through every single page in the binder to look for a particular document, right? A very small firm, right? So definitely a very hard task, and I think could definitely be completely solved today with our product. And the other thing that I did there was do some computational work. So estimating damages for a particular litigation case. And for stuff like that, you just look at the past, what the court has agreed to in the past for what damages would be required, and you just use that information. And I think that's another thing that our generative drafting capability could really help out with, being able to really precisely modify a particular argument based on the past information.
The report's up now, so a lot of people may have seen it and are poring over it. But we're also looking to run studies like this, again, and many times over into the future as we get into new jurisdictions, collect more data, and get access to more products. And so why might you be interested in participating in future versions of the study? Why might other vendors want to participate in a study like this?
For us and for our peers that are in the study, it's a really great opportunity to sort of comport with the high ethical standards that lawyers have. We're very much committed, results being good or bad, or as they are, to allowing lawyers to see exactly what goes on inside of our systems and benchmark them against other tools. And we're very proud of that. That's something that we want to continue doing as a company going into the future.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Joe and Thomas, and hope you all enjoy checking out the VLAIR report once it comes out.
Thank you so much for hosting this study. I think we definitely very much appreciate it, and hopefully we can do this again in the near future.